Hey guys, how's it going? This is your boy Coach Econ, and this is my weekly vlog. New vision for your nutrition, my unfiltered perspective, tips and advice on health. Today's topic will be looking at New Year's resolutions and the top 3 reasons on why you need to make them. Today we'll be discussing why you need to make New Year's resolutions, of course, the value they hold, and what not making them could result in. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I did is I wanted to look at an article that supplied some general reasons why you should make New Year's resolutions. And so I took some of the information from that to kind of start off with in terms of giving us some general ideas, speaking on that, and as far as giving my opinion on it, and then elaborating with a few different ideas, just dealing with life. So here we go. The article that we're looking at today is psychologytoday.com, and the article was the top 8 reasons why you need to make a New Year's resolution. And so I took the top 3 from that to use for our discussion today. Goals provide you with a vision and a direction. They give you a destination and enable you to plan your course into your future. Without goals, you risk wasting your resource, which in parentheses, time, money, and energy, feeling confused and overwhelmed and being unprepared when opportunities arrive. The way goals help you is they really pretty much provide you with something to kind of reach towards. You get that direction, and it basically keeps you away from just waking up. You're just waking up like Dr. Eric Thomas, a great speaker, kind of spoke on to. You just kind of like it's an accident, almost like you're waking up like as if it wasn't. It wasn't purposeful. There was no direction, no purpose to what your day was supposed to hold up to. So let's go to number 2. Number two's reasoning as far as why you need to make New Year's resolution. The article, again, we're speaking of psychologytoday.com, says they make us feel good. Now, this sounds very basic, and when I saw it, I felt it was a pretty basic comment, but it speaks pretty much to a great idea. It says they literally do. Speaking of making us feel good, they literally do. It says as neuroscientists learn more and more about the emotion circuits of the brain, they're discovering that one of our most basic emotional reactions is happiness through pursuit. Let me read that again. Our basic emotional reaction is happiness through pursuit. Being actively engaged in the pursuit of a goal activates your brain's pleasure centers independent of outcome. That's pretty deep, because when you think about it, what it's saying is uh, we derive basically more pleasure in chasing a dream than achieving it. And where I think of, or what I go to when I hear that kind of chasing overachieving, is I always think of people in celebrity statuses that have been able to live that life. And more times than not, for most people, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but for most of them, a lot of them regret the transition of where their life was in the midst of them when they were chasing it, and actually when they kind of what you would deem arrived where they've always wanted to be. And I think part of that was that there's a something magical about that, about the journey. I think that you don't really appreciate until it actually is over, or when you kind of reach that platform. Now, most people will tell you, okay, when you reach that, you kind of get into new levels or new goals that you reach, and that's true too. But I think in some circumstances, there's a point at which your goal is set so high that you almost believe that you'll spend your lifetime chasing it. And if you've been blessed, to reach that goal early, sometimes the responsibility, the lifestyle change, which brings the attention, either warranted or unwarranted, financial changes, which may cause those around you to also change. I mean, there's a lot that goes with most dreams being attained, pursuit of something, a pursuit of happiness. As I kind of think of that movie, it's chasing something. There's just like that nostalgic feeling when you're chasing something, and you never really speak about the end the same way as the journey. So um, like I said, the rappers are most rappers. I think J. Cole's a good example. You know, he speak. Yeah, I think one of my favorite songs is one where he basically describes, you know, in a sense, he's like it was. The song is pretty much saying that it was. I was better. I was happier when when I had less. The last one, number three, is the alternative. The alternative is default, and they speak on the point. They said, without suggesting that we should plan out every minute of our lives, what do you do when you're not working towards getting something done? Is it a productive or an enjoyable default, or is it something that you later regret, like binge watching a TV show and or reading Facebook? Okay, so you don't set a New Year's resolution. What's the alternative? What do you feel like is valuable without it? And some people will say, well, I just don't have that pressure, and a lot of people don't want that pressure. And I think that's also a character trait of most people too, is, you know, having a New Year's resolution ultimately provides you to then have to be responsible or to be accountable. And honestly, we most of us feel like accountability is kind of like kryptonite. We don't want to feel like we have set ourselves up for failure or set ourselves up for being pushed, being pressured. That I don't want to start because that then would mean I would be responsible for continuing. And that scares some people. And we have to be honest with that. But I think where this is valuable is it's pretty much saying, you know what, the default is really no better in your growth. My example was kids. I think I was reading or listening to a study, and it was speaking about how as adults, looking back at it, I remember them speaking of how that really was something that they thought they wanted, but as kids, you know, looking back on it, that was the last thing they wanted. It actually sounds weird, but most kids and most people in general, we want restrictions. We want to know boundaries. The study that I was, you know, referring to, that the grown-ups were pretty much speaking of the lack of love that they believe their parents had because there was no discipline. And crazy enough, they actually see that discipline, especially after you kind of lived, you know, the harshness of what the world can provide sometimes as far as the examples, you want to be able to say, well, my household was a beneficiary of giving me a head start to a lot of the harshness and the realities of life by constructing and providing rules for me that were able to help me adapt. Again, this is New Year's resolutions and the top three reasons why you need to make them. I hope that you found one of these that was valuable, beneficial. Do me a favor, down here at the bottom, if you could just write one of the New Year's resolutions that you may be thinking about doing or doing this year, and I would love to read them and see what what you feel like is going to help you this year, 2017 coming up. And as always, this is your boy Coach Econ, on all my other social sites, or you can just directly hit me at lifechanging.com. And as always, I thank you guys so much for hanging out here with me. Hope it was helpful, and talk to you later.